Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves at the edge of something older than any crumbling castle or faded map. A medieval city lost to time, its fog-choked gate creaking open just for you. The mist rolls in around your ankles, cold and damp, leaving your clothes heavy and your breath visible. You hear wind rasping through iron bars and the low moan of old hinges shifting on their own. You press your palm against cold, cracked stone. The moss is slick beneath your fingers. A crow lands on the gate, cawing once in the gloom before fluttering away, as if even it has the sense not to go in. You probably won't survive this, at least not with your sanity entirely intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand before the gate, one hand still resting on the cold iron. The mist curls around you, trying to push you back, but you lean forward instead. The city is silent. Even the birds have abandoned it. You can't help feeling the ground tremble, though it's probably just your heart. You step over the threshold. Your boot scrapes on grit. Once, this was the grand entrance to a thriving trade city, with banners snapping overhead and guards tapping their spears in boredom. Historians still argue whether this city was founded by refugees fleeing a northern warlord, or by merchants who simply wanted a toll station on the river. Both stories survive in conflicting chronicles. You walk deeper. The road is cobbled but uneven. Weeds push through gaps like bony fingers. The walls loom to either side, pocked with age, fissured like cracked porcelain. You brush one, feeling a sharp edge where some bored medieval mason carved a joke in Latin. You'd translate it for the camera, but it's a bit risque, PG-13 at best. Above, the old parapets lean at angles that make you crane your neck uncomfortably. Mortar dribbles like wax down the stones. In one section, you see a coat of arms, barely visible now, the colors faded. It's a pair of crossed keys over a crescent moon. No one knows what family it belonged to. A local legend claims it was a secret sect of crypt keepers. But that's probably just the kind of nonsense bored teenagers dare each other to talk about in the dark. You shift your pack on your shoulder. It's heavier than it should be. Probably all that absolutely necessary ghost hunting equipment you never use. The gate slams shut behind you with a rusty bang. You jump, admit it, but you keep going. Your steps scuff through dirt and loose stones, crunching in the hush. Once, there'd have been busy porters here. Smells of tar and horses, fish in barrels. Now it smells of damp earth and something green and rotting. You wrinkle your nose. You pass a broken wagon wheel half buried in mud. The spokes are splintered, the rim warped. The owner likely died decades before you were born. It's amazing how mundane these ruins are when you really look. Nothing but old trash arranged in artistic decay. A sudden cold breeze whistles past, snapping your hood back. You shiver and grin at the same time. You're here for the chill, after all. Near the gatehouse, you see a series of low, crumbled walls. They might have been small guard posts or merchant offices. Or maybe animal pens. Historians still can't agree because no one's found decent records. A local antiquarian once claimed he discovered a city plan drawn in charcoal on sheepskin, but then his house burned down and the plan with it. A convenient accident, if you ask the conspiracy-minded. You run your fingers over one of the walls, feeling the texture of weather-worn stone. It's softer than you expect. Sandstone? Probably. You knock gently. Hollow in parts. Might be hiding tunnels underneath, though if you fell in, you'd be a cautionary tale for the next generation of YouTubers. You keep moving. Your lantern, or phone flashlight, let's be honest, throws shadows that dart and twist. The fog reflects it back, making a glow around you. Visibility drops to maybe 10 feet. You're an explorer, an archaeologist of the weird, and just a tiny bit foolish. You pause at the gatehouse door. It's leaning half off its hinges. Wood swollen from centuries of rain, iron nails rusted to streaky orange. You push it slowly, and it creaks like an old man's knee. Inside it's darker, smells worse. Animal droppings, rotted straw. This was someone's post once, watching travelers come and go. Maybe they complained about the weather, the pay, the endless boredom. You can practically hear it. Another caravan, another bribe. You pick up a rusted spearhead. Cold, rough, flaking. You give it a gentle toss and catch it. Bad idea, it crumbles slightly in your palm. Medieval ironwork at its finest. You set it down carefully before you need a tetanus shot. There's graffiti scratched on the wall. A rough drawing of a knight with exaggerated armor. Very mature. You stifle a laugh. People never change. Outside again, you listen. Wind pushes the fog in eddies, making the city seem to breathe. You hear the slap of something wet in the distance. Probably a loose shutter or your imagination. You see a patch of ground where the cobbles vanish entirely, just churned dirt. Maybe a market entrance once? There are traces of old wood posts rotted to black lumps. A fence? A checkpoint? No one knows. You step over it like you're allowed in anyway. A scuttling sound makes you freeze. Rats? Ghosts? Worse, feral cats. They watch from a wall, eyes reflecting green. One hisses and you hiss back. Who's the apex predator now? They scatter. You take a slow breath. You're in. Past the gate, the city is yours to wander. You pause, leaning against the nearest wall. It's colder here than outside. Your breath puffs like a tiny ghost. You imagine the long line of travelers who came through, paying tolls, complaining about prices, arguing over lost cargo. You feel weirdly connected to them, like time is paper thin here. You smirk at the idea of medieval influencers. Hey guys, it's me, Brother Joffrey. Smash that tithe button. Today we're unboxing relics. You chuckle. Even the ghosts would roll their eyes. You straighten up, crack your neck, and push onward. The gatehouse fades behind you. Ahead, you see a hint of wider space in the fog. The edge of a square? A market? But first, there's more road to cover. Cobblestones uneven, some pried up long ago. Maybe to throw at invaders, or to build someone's pigsty. You wonder who got away with that. You stub your toe on one. Curse softly because that's the medieval spirit. It's quiet, oppressively so. Your ears strain for sound. The city holds its breath, and you keep walking. You shuffle forward into thicker fog, your steps muffled on damp cobbles. The ground flattens beneath you, and shapes loom. Low stalls, collapsed roofs, tilting awnings, all sagging under centuries of decay. This is the market of shadows, where nothing has been sold for generations. You pause beside what was once a merchant's booth. The wood is swollen, split, and flecked with lichen. You brush it with your fingers, sending up a puff of dry rotten mold. It smells earthy, stubbornly alive in a place that should be dead. You see an old signboard swinging from one nail. The faded paint might have been a loaf of bread or a fish. No one agrees. Historians still argue whether this was primarily a food market or a crafts bazaar. A few receipts in crumbling script suggest both, but the records end mid-sentence, like whoever wrote them simply walked away and never came back. You stand very still. Listen. No voices, no haggling. No laughter or shouting or barter, just your breath. A chill runs up your spine. You can almost hear the echoes if you let your imagination do the heavy lifting. 2 copper for the lot, thief, guards. You keep moving. You duck under a sagging canopy made of rotted cloth that flakes in your hand. It's like touching a moth's wing, so fragile it crumbles at a breath. You smirk. Definitely wouldn't survive one Amazon review. Beyond it, the stalls close in tighter. You squeeze through, pushing aside broken boards, stepping over upturned crates. One has ancient apples carved into the side. The paint is mostly gone. You touch it, feeling the groove, and imagine some bored apprentice spending hours on those lines, hoping to impress the boss. You find a pile of coins in the dirt. For a glorious second, you think you've struck it rich. Then you see they're corroded, stuck together in a greenish lump. Copper. Worthless now. But once they'd have been precious enough to argue over, you toss them back. Your light catches something glinting. A bit of glass, melted at one end. Was it a bottle? A lamp? You imagine it fell in a fire. There were massive blazes in cities like this, often blamed on careless bakers or vindictive rivals. Sometimes entire neighborhoods vanished overnight. Historians still debate whether these cities had formal firefighting brigades or just relied on frantic bucket lines. One charred manuscript describes an order of buckets, suggesting some semi-official group, but no one's certain if it was real or just local bravado. You sidestep the shards carefully. A dry wind rattles the stalls. It sounds like quiet laughter. You tell yourself, you're not spooked. You're a professional. Or at least you're recording this for the ad revenue. Near the center of the square, you find a well. The stones are cracked, the rim half buried in silt and grass. You peer in, but it's too dark to see the bottom. You imagine water once drawn by the bucketful, kids leaning too close, mothers scolding them. You also imagine something worse waiting down there, because your brain is helpful that way. You clear your throat. A plaque sits on the well's side, letters chipped almost away. You trace them slowly. They might have been Latin, or the local dialect, lost to time. Some eccentric 19th century traveler claimed to have copied them, but his notebook was mysteriously misplaced on the voyage home. Sounds like the old dog ate my homework, only with extra shipwrecks. You circle the well. Your light reveals another stall. This one collapsed completely. The roof is a jumble of planks and moldy canvas. You poke at it with your boot. Underneath is a pile of old shoes. Just shoes. Different sizes. Some with buckles, others plain. Your heart does a little skip. Who left them? Did people flee so quickly they didn't bother? Or is this where the lost and found was? You pick one up. The leather cracks. The sole is nailed with tiny iron studs, the old medieval equivalent of grip soles. You drop it, wiping your hand on your pants. Your lamp throws your shadow huge across the ruined stalls. It looks monstrous, arms too long. You move and it scuttles along beside you. You force a laugh. Nice try. You take a deep breath, the air wet and cold in your lungs. You spot a rusted scale on a merchant's counter. The plates hang at crooked angles. You imagine the arguments over weights and measures. Local lords often regulated these, sometimes fairly, sometimes not. There are records of entire markets being fined for cheating customers. Or worse, burned out in purges when corruption got too blatant. You can almost hear a merchant whining, but I swear it's fair weight. Your foot bumps something metal. You look down. A small bell, green with corrosion. You pick it up. It still has its clapper. You give it a test shake, the tiniest, saddest ding. You grin, despite yourself. You hang it carefully back on its hook. You move deeper into the market. The fog thickens again, your light bouncing back at you, flattening perspective. You squint. Shapes loom, then vanish. It's like the city is playing with you. You step carefully around a toppled cart. The wheel has split into petals of rotted wood. A family's livelihood gone in an afternoon? There's a cloth scrap snagged on a post. You pinch it between two fingers. It crumbles instantly. Your fingers tingle as if touching the past itself. You let the wind take the pieces. A sudden clang makes you whip around. Nothing there. Just your heartbeat. You blow out a long breath. Okay. Chill. You scan the ground. Bits of pottery, a rusted knife, beads that might have once adorned someone's hair, personal items. Left behind or lost in a panic? Historians love to argue if this city fell to plague, invasion, economic ruin, or pure bad luck. Some blame a combination. A few crackpot theories say it was cursed by monks for harboring sinful trade. The only thing they agree on is that it ended. You pick up a shard of glazed pottery. Blue lines trace a flower. Delicate. Beautiful even now. You pocket it. Souvenir. You keep moving. A rat scuttles across your path. You jump, curse softly, then laugh. You again? It vanishes into the fog. You shiver, not from cold. It's easy to get lost here. The market seems to go on forever. Rows of broken stalls repeating like a nightmare. You keep an eye on the ground, following the worn cobbles. Eventually you see an opening, an archway of half-collapsed stone. Beyond it lies a street that curves away into the fog. You pause, glancing back at the market one last time. It's silent. Still, waiting for customers who will never return. You step through the archway, shoulders brushing old stone, and leave the market behind. Ahead, the narrow lane beckons. Time to see where it leads. You edge into the narrow street, feeling the walls closing in. The fog doesn't lift, it thickens, swallowing you in its chill. Your steps sound too loud here. The air is so still it feels staged, like the city is holding its breath, watching. Ahead, the street ends in a large, blocky building of cracked stone and arched windows that gape like empty eyes. You recognize the silhouette from your research. This is the old guild hall, where merchants and craftsmen once gathered to hash out deals, settle scores, and brag about whose apprentices were least likely to burn down the shop. You push the heavy door. It groans like an old man rising too fast. Dust billows in a choking cloud. You cough, waving your light around. Inside, it's cavernous. The floor is paved in large flagstones worn concave by thousands of boots. A massive hearth yawns at the far end, its mantle black with soot. Even now you can imagine the fire roaring, logs spitting sap, merchants leaning in conspiratorially. Your light catches a painted mural on the wall, faded and cracked, colors dulled, but you can still see figures in long robes holding measuring rods and ledgers. One has an absurdly oversized quill, clearly an artistic flex by the painter. You smirk. Nothing says respect my authority like cartoonishly giant office supplies. You lean closer. One section of the mural is vandalized, deep gouges across the faces. A petty rival? Religious zealots? Historians still argue whether these defacements were pre- or post-collapse. One letter suggests a bitter feud over textile tariffs ended with an actual brawl in this hall, but that's the only record. You trace a groove in the fresco with your fingertip. It feels like a scar. The echo of your own breath is unnerving. You move to a low dais at the center of the room. This would have been where the guildmaster sat, presiding over disputes, issuing orders. The chair is gone, but you see the outline in dust, like a phantom waiting to sit. You clear your throat and in your best dramatic voice declare, "Motion to adjourn." Your words bounce back at you in damp, muffled mockery. You chuckle, brushing off the chill. On the floor you find a cluster of rusty keys, their teeth bent and broken. Guild keys? For vaults? Or maybe just the janitor's ring, forgotten in the chaos. You pocket one. Souvenir. You wander over to a side alcove. There's a desk, or what's left of it. The wood has collapsed under its own weight, the drawers splayed like broken wings. You spot scraps of parchment, but they're too far gone to read, just smudges and mold. One has a wax seal, shattered but recognizable as the city's crest, those crossed keys and crescent moon. The same as at the gate. Your fingers tingle. A chill climbs your arm. You shake it off. In the corner, there's an old chest. The iron bands have rusted clean through, and the lid is ajar. You kneel, shining your light inside. Nothing but straw. You sigh dramatically. Of course. No gold bars tonight. You stand, cracking your knees. Your light lands on a wall carving. Hidden in shadow until now, it shows a stylized city map. Barely visible, lines shallow and uneven. It's not to scale, but you can trace main roads, markets, a river. Scholars once tried to use it to reconstruct the city's layout. Problem is, parts were likely propaganda, making roads seem grander, districts richer. Historians still argue whether it was meant as a guide or a brag sheet. You squint at it. Lies and marketing. Nothing changes. You rub your neck, your breath fogs in front of you. It's getting colder. The fog presses in through cracked windows. Moonlight filters in, a sickly glow catching dust motes like stars. You move carefully. You find a narrow staircase in the back. The railing is gone. You test a step. It creaks but holds. Up you go. Second floor is worse. Beams sag, plaster flakes in sheets. The roof has holes big enough to see the clouded sky. Rain has warped the floorboards. But you see traces of wall paintings. Intricate scrollwork, stylized animals, some real, some clearly imagined. A lion with wings, a fish with human eyes, probably guild symbols, or just the artist showing off. You lean closer, whispering, "Nice work, buddy." Still creepy, though. You find a broken chair near a boarded window. You sit for a moment. The wood cracks threateningly. You stand again immediately. Okay, you win. A rat skitters across the beam overhead, its claws tapping like a tiny drummer. You give it a nod of respect. "Evening, sir." You step carefully to a smaller room, maybe an office. A battered ledger lies in the corner. You flip it with your boot. The pages slough away like wet tissue. Illegible, except for one scrap. A few lines in cramped script. Agreed on tariffs. Dispute with Smiths unresolved. Threats exchanged. You snort. Very professional. Historians think these guilds held real power, sometimes more than the city's own rulers. Merchant councils could set laws, raise militias, even negotiate treaties. But records are fragmentary, and most burned in whatever final catastrophe ended the city. You toss the scrap aside. You turn to leave but pause at the doorway. You look back at the empty hall. You imagine it full. Arguments, laughter, deals sealed with handshakes, or knives in backs. Probably both. A gust of wind slams a shutter somewhere. You jump, cursing, then grin. Nice try. You head back down the stairs, boots thumping. At the door you pause again, listening. Nothing. You pull it open and step back into the night. The fog rolls in immediately, swallowing the guild hall behind you. You feel its emptiness at your back, like it's waiting for you to come back and finish the meeting, but you're already moving on. The street curves away, narrow and dark. You see hints of other buildings, leaning together like conspirators, and you know you're going to see them all. Because you're not done yet. Not by a long shot. You step from the guild hall into an alley so narrow you have to turn your shoulders sideways. The walls close in like teeth. Mortar crumbles at your touch. You breathe carefully. The fog clots thicker here, damp and heavy as a wet blanket. Your light only goes so far before it fades to dull gray. You move forward, slowly, deliberately. Your boots crunch on gravel and old trash, broken tiles, splinters of ancient doors. You smell mildew and something metallic, like rust or old blood. Your mind is helpful like that, supplying the worst possibilities. A drop of water plinks onto your neck from above. You startle, slap at it, and laugh. Calm down. It's just condensation, not ghost spit. You continue on, stepping over a collapsed barrel. Once, it probably held fish or ale. Now it's home to moss and a few brave mushrooms. A scuttling sound makes you pause. You wait, listen. Rats again? Or cats? Or both? You keep walking. The walls here are covered in old plaster, much of it fallen away to reveal uneven stones. But in places, faded frescoes remain. You trace one with your light. A merchant ship at full sail. Another shows what might be a saint or a local hero with a sword. But someone scratched crude graffiti over them centuries ago. Obscene drawings, childish insults, human nature at its finest. You smirk. Guess the medieval kids were just as classy. You run your fingers across a particularly offensive carving. The stone is cold. Grit lodges under your nails. You wipe your hand on your pants and move on. You reach a bend where the alley doglegs sharply. On the corner, a signboard swings drunkenly on one nail. The letters are illegible, but you see the faded shape of a tankard. Maybe an old tavern? Historians still argue whether these tight alleys were deliberately planned for defense, forcing invaders to bottleneck, or if the city simply sprawled without any real planning. Some surviving city charters suggest both. Merchants bribing for extra space, rulers enforcing weird zigzags for security that mostly just confused drunks. You step around the corner. The alley gets even narrower. You have to turn sideways again. Your pack scrapes the wall. Bits of plaster drift down. Claustrophobic. You exhale slowly, steadying yourself. You see faint carvings near ground level. Child height. Spirals, animals, symbols. You wonder if kids played here, scratching secret codes, or if it was something older, warding symbols against plague or demons. Historians found similar carvings in other cities but disagree on their purpose. Protection, vandalism, a lost language, you shrug. Guess we'll never know. Sleep tight, scholars. You move on. Boots sliding on wet stone. Overhead, wooden balconies lean out, almost touching. You imagine residents leaning across to gossip or pass stolen goods. One balcony is missing half its planks. A black cat perches on it, eyes reflecting green. It watches you like you owe it rent. You nod politely. It blinks slowly, unimpressed. You grin and keep walking. At one point, the alley splits in two. You choose the narrower path. Of course you do. It tightens to barely shoulder width. You breathe shallowly. The walls are slick with moisture. Vines snake through gaps. Your light bounces wildly in the confined space. You see a low doorway ahead. Half the lintel has collapsed. You duck carefully. Inside is pitch black. It smells of rot and wet earth. You wait, letting your eyes adjust. You see the faintest shape of a stairwell descending. Historians whisper about these hidden tunnels, debating whether they were escape routes, smuggler paths, or plague burials. Some city maps suggest elaborate networks. Others say it's all folklore. You put one foot on the first step. It creaks like a dying animal. You reconsider. Yeah, maybe not tonight. You back out slowly. As you emerge, a breeze stirs the fog. For a moment, you see the alley stretch clear ahead, revealing yet another fork. You curse under your breath. Maze designers would be proud. You pick the left fork this time. It winds and twists, the walls changing materials: stone, brick, wattle, and daub. Evidence of centuries of patchwork construction. You see a rusted lantern hanging from an iron hook. It swings slightly, though there's no wind here. You poke it. It squeaks in protest. Haunted. Got it. You pass old doorways, some bricked up, others ajar. One door has a smashed peephole at eye level. You lean in for a better look and immediately regret it. The smell is enough to curl your nose hairs. You gag, stepping back quickly. Okay, no room service here. You keep moving, pressing one hand against the wall for balance. You stumble slightly on uneven cobbles. Your fingers graze another set of carvings. This one is a full sentence in cramped, spidery script. You whisper it aloud. Abandon hope, all ye, wow, original. You chuckle despite yourself. But your voice sounds small. You hush. Listen, just your breath, a drip somewhere. Maybe the faintest echo of movement. Your heart thuds too loudly. You swallow. You move on. The alley widens at last, spilling into a small courtyard. Relief floods you. You can stand straight again. You roll your shoulders, sighing. Around you, the buildings lean in at strange angles. One has collapsed almost entirely, blocking part of the square with a pile of debris. In the center stands an old well. Another one. This one is capped with a rusted iron grate. You crouch, shining your light through. The shaft descends into blackness. You imagine eyes staring back. You shiver. You see pottery shards, broken stools, bits of charred wood scattered about. Signs of an old fire? A riot? Historians found evidence of burned layers here, debating whether it was invasion, accident, or punishment. No one knows. You stand, brushing dirt from your knee. You look up. The upper stories of the buildings loom, their windows hollow and dark. Curtains flutter in one. You freeze. They flutter again, slower this time. A breeze? Or something else? You don't wait to find out. You push on, finding another alley at the far side of the square. As you slip into it, the fog thickens, swallowing the courtyard behind you. You don't look back, because you're starting to feel like the city is watching you, breathing with you, waiting. You swallow and keep going, boots scraping on wet stone. The walls squeeze closer again. The alley twists and winds, a serpent of ancient masonry. And you follow, because there's no other way. You emerge from the twisting alley onto a narrow, open terrace. The fog lifts just enough to reveal a ruin ahead, an old watchtower, cracked and sagging but defiantly upright. You pause to catch your breath, wiping sweat from your brow despite the cold. The tower looms over you, a lopsided giant with its crown caved in. You circle it slowly. Vines crawl up the masonry like grasping fingers, pulling the stones apart grain by grain. At the base, an arched doorway gapes, filled with shadow. You shine your light inside. A spiral stair. Of course. You sigh. Gotta get that cardio in. You step inside. The air is cooler, stale. Your boots echo on stone steps, the sound absorbed by centuries of dust. Each step wobbles just a bit. You test them carefully. Halfway up, you pause. There's a narrow arrow slit, just wide enough to let in a pale shaft of moonlight. You press your face to it. Outside the city is a sea of fog, rooftops and broken walls rising like islands. You see the twisted alleys you left behind, the market's jumbled square, even the ruined guild hall's bulk. For a moment, you're the watchman, leaning on your spear, bored out of your skull, praying for a quiet shift. You whisper to the imaginary guard, "Don't worry, nothing ever happens here." You keep climbing. The steps narrow further, worn into shallow bowls from countless feet. Your fingers brush the center pillar. It's slick with age, the stone polished in places, crumbling in others. A spider's web clings to your face. You flail, hissing, wiping it away with a shudder. Nature's alarm system. Thanks. You reach the top, what's left of it. The roof is half collapsed. Moonlight filters in, making the fog glow silver. Broken battlements ring the platform, the gaps like missing teeth in a crooked smile. You step carefully. A breeze cuts through, colder at this height. You move to the edge, bracing your hands on the cracked parapet. It shifts under your weight. You freeze, then slowly, very slowly, ease off. You peer down. The city sprawls around you, hauntingly beautiful in ruin. The fog weaves through it, swallowing details, revealing others. You see another tower in the distance, toppled entirely. Its stones lie scattered like dice. Historians still argue whether this city was ever truly fortified. Some claim the walls and towers were for show, a way to flex wealth rather than repel armies. Others insist these defenses were tested in multiple sieges. Fragments of ballista bolts and scorched stones fuel the debate, but there's no definitive answer. You inhale deeply. The air is sharp, tinged with old smoke. You swear you hear distant shouting, but it's just wind in the broken merlons. You turn, scanning the floor. Weeds grow from cracks in the flagstones. Someone carved initials here once. Half of them have weathered away. R loves, and nothing else. You grin? Guess it didn't work out. A broken brazier lies on its side, rusted through. You imagine watchmen huddled around it, swapping stories, complaining about rations, worrying about pay, or singing bawdy songs at the top of their lungs to annoy the town below. You imagine one yelling, "Who here hasn't paid their taxes?" and a chorus of groans. You chuckle. A rat squeaks somewhere. You turn, catching the glint of its eyes. It vanishes into rubble. You walk a slow circle. In one corner there's a hatch, the wood gone but the iron frame intact. It leads to the crawlspace between floors. You shine your light in, see only black. You decide not to test it. Not today. Broken ankles. You find a fragment of old signal cloth, once bright red, now brown and tattered. You pick it up, twirl it. Enemy at the gates, or dinner's ready? You toss it aside. You lean against the parapet again, looking out. The fog seems alive, churning slowly, shapes form and vanish. You swear you see a line of soldiers marching. Then they dissolve. You blink, rub your eyes. Okay. Spooky meter's at 8 out of 10. You pull your coat tighter. You imagine the watch commander up here, eyes sharp, listening for distant horns, watching for fires in the night, knowing if he failed, the city would burn. Or worse, starve. Because siege wasn't always about glory or duels, it was waiting, disease, hunger. Historians found accounts of cities where people traded boots for stew, scraped mortar from walls to make soup. And here you are, standing where someone once tried to spot it coming. You swallow. Suddenly you feel very small. You kick a loose stone. It bounces once, twice, then drops over the side. You don't hear it land. You step back, carefully. A gust rattles what's left of the battlements. You wince as a chunk of stone drops off, shattering below. Solid construction. 5 stars on Yelp. You take a final look. The fog blankets the city, silent, waiting. You turn and descend the steps slowly, each one groaning. Your light flickers. You tap it. It steadies. You mutter thanks to the battery gods. Halfway down, you pause at the arrow slit. You peer out again, just missed. You think you see someone moving, but they vanish. You shiver. Just rats, big medieval tax-evading rats. You keep going. At the base, you step out into the night again. The fog curls around you like a living thing. The watchtower looms behind you, leaning, broken, but somehow defiant. You give it a salute. Well done. You did your best. You move on. Ahead, the street widens slightly. You see the suggestion of a massive structure in the gloom. Arched windows, crumbling buttresses, the cathedral. You sigh, bracing yourself, because if the watchtower was this bad, you can only imagine what's waiting in there. But you keep walking. Because there's no turning back. Not now. The city has you, and you're not leaving until you see it all. You drift forward, boots scraping on uneven stone as the cathedral grows in the fog, huge and brooding. Its outline seems to pulse with every swirl of mist. The spires are broken stumps, jagged as shark's teeth. Flying buttresses lean drunkenly, held together by vines thicker than your wrist. You hesitate at the massive door. Oak planks, blackened with age and fire. Iron bands eaten by rust. One hinge is sheared clear through, the other just barely holding. You place your palm flat against it, cold, damp, solid despite everything. You give it a push, it screams in protest. Echoes crash inside, bouncing back in warped hollow tones. You slip in, pulling your light higher. Inside, the air is thick and cold as a crypt. The floor is paved in giant stone slabs, cracked and shifted by centuries of frost. Your breath fogs in front of you. It's dark. So dark, even your light seems scared, throwing short, meager beams. But slowly, details emerge. Pews, toppled and broken, their carved ends splintered into claws. You kick one aside gently. It creaks like old bones. You chuckle under your breath. Please remain seated. Your voice rings too loud in the hush. You hush yourself. You walk carefully. A massive altar looms at the far end. Its marble cracked clean through, the top slab tilted like a shipwreck. Behind it, faded frescoes cling to walls blackened by old fires. Figures of saints. Or demons. It's hard to tell. Long-robed silhouettes with too many eyes. Halos that bleed into horns. Historians still argue whether these murals were meant to be orthodox warnings, folk heresy, or just an artist's unhinged imagination. A letter found in a nearby ruin calls the place unholy and demands it be sealed forever, but offers no explanation. You squint at the art. Very metal. Your light dances over niches in the wall. Empty now. Relics, statues, looted or hidden away. Maybe both. You step closer to the altar. Offerings lie scattered. Coins green with corrosion. A melted candle fused to stone. A small carved figure missing its head. You crouch, picking it up. It's smooth with age. You turn it over in your fingers. Was it a saint? A pagan idol someone snuck in? Or just a child's toy, lost in terror? You set it back down carefully. Your lamp catches something carved into the altar itself. Words? Latin? You read slowly. Deliver us from evil. The letters are crude, scratched in desperation. You run your thumb along the groove. It feels too deep, like someone carved it with shaking hands and all the force they had left. You swallow. You straighten up, brushing dust from your knees. You step around the altar, careful not to slip. Behind it lies the choir. Benches lie tumbled like thrown dice. A massive stone chair sits on a dais, cracked down the middle. You imagine the bishop here. Tall hat, ringed fingers. Voice booming with righteous anger or fear, because something bad happened here. You feel it. Your hair prickles at the nape of your neck. Your lamp catches a mural on the back wall. A city on fire. Flames painted in vivid reds and oranges now faded to muddy rust. Figures flee in terror, arms raised, but their faces are blank. No eyes, no mouths, just smooth, featureless ovals. You swallow again. Artistic choice or something worse? You take a cautious step closer. The paint is cracked, flaking. You run a finger over it, and the color smears like blood. You wipe it quickly on your pants. Okay, that's enough art appreciation. You pivot back to the main hall. Your light catches movement. Your heart stops. But it's just tattered banners high in the vaults, shifting in a stray breeze. They hang in shreds, colors unrecognizable, symbols long lost. You squint. One looks like crossed keys over a crescent moon. Again, the city's crest. You wonder if anyone remembers what it really meant. A family sigil, a religious order, or just civic branding on medieval steroids. Historians still bicker about it, of course. Your lamp flickers, you slap it gently, it steadies. You blow out a long, slow breath. You move along the side aisles. Pillars loom, carved with twisting vines, angels or devils interwoven. It's hard to tell. Your fingers trail along the cold stone. You find a small door, nearly hidden. You nudge it open. Stairs lead down. The crypt. Of course, you hesitate. It smells worse here. Damp, mold, something more coppery. Lovely. You step down carefully. Each step groans. The ceiling lowers until you're hunched. Your light reveals stacked bones, neatly arranged, skulls grinning at you from niches. You nod politely. Evening, folks. One skull has been split with a clean, deliberate cut. Execution victim? Ritual sacrifice? Historians have theories, but no answers. You find a stone slab with carvings worn nearly smooth, an epitaph in Latin. You read the fragment aloud. In death, eternal watch. Charming. You step deeper. The crypt branches. Tiny rooms stacked with bones. Moldy shrouds hang in tatters. You try not to breathe too deeply. Your light catches something scuttling. You freeze. A rat. Just a rat. It vanishes into the bones. You shake your head. Enjoy your dinner. You move carefully back to the stairs. Climbing slowly, You emerge in the cold air of the nave. Relief hits you like a wave. You didn't realize you were holding your breath. You walk back toward the door, glancing at the altar one last time. That crude prayer scratched into it. Deliver us from evil. You shiver. You push the door open. The wind howls in as if waiting. The fog rolls around you. You step out, leaving the cathedral behind, but not its memory. Ahead, the street forks. One path climbs toward a hill. You see the broken silhouette of a tower, but the other path dips low toward the city's edge, toward the old plague pits. You sigh. Guess you know where you're headed next, because you're not done yet. The city isn't done with you, and you can't stop now, not even if you want to. You follow the street downward. The slope is subtle at first, almost gentle, but soon you notice your calves tensing, your pace quickening against your will. The fog grows thicker, pooling like water in a basin. The air is colder here too, raw and metallic on your tongue. Ahead, the ground changes from cobbled street to uneven dirt, pocked with ragged holes. You stop. You know what these are. Plague pits. Even the fog seems to hesitate before curling over them. You walk slowly now, boots squelching in damp soil. Your light catches scraps of cloth buried halfway in mud, once shrouds, now nothing but dark stains. A bit of bone juts from the earth, small and fragile. You stare at it too long before forcing yourself to move on. Historians still argue whether these pits were for plague victims or general pauper burials. City records, such as they are, list mass interments vaguely, no cause of death specified. Some blame the Black Death. Others suggest multiple outbreaks over centuries, each wave erasing the memory of the last. You shudder. You picture wagons heaped with bodies, priests murmuring last rites too fast to mean anything, grave diggers with scarves over their faces arguing over pay. You step carefully over a hollow depression that sags under your weight. Sorry, you murmur. The wind answers with a moan. Or maybe it's just your imagination. You see old wooden markers, barely more than splinters, rotted and toppled. One still has a crude crossbeam leaning at a sick angle. You reach out, steady it gently. It falls anyway. You flinch at the sound, then laugh softly. Not much of a handyman. You move on. A low stone wall circles part of the field. The mortar has eroded to sand in places. Ivy coils through gaps like green serpents. You run your fingers over it, feeling the cool grit. Boundary marker? Or just someone trying to contain the smell? You smirk. Your light catches something carved in the stone. Letters. You squint. They're nearly worn away. Miserere nobis. Have mercy on us. You breathe out slowly. You turn away. Your lamp sweeps across more pits, some half-filled, others caved in entirely. You think you see skulls. You don't look too hard, not because you're scared, because you feel like you're intruding. You keep moving. There's a narrow path along the edge, almost lost in weeds. You take it, your steps slow and deliberate. Every few feet you spot offerings. Coins, rotted flowers, a rusted dagger stuck in the dirt like a grim bouquet. Historians found similar items in other plague sites, debating their purpose. Bribes for the dead? Apologies? Protection? No one knows. You wonder who left them, and whether it worked. Probably not. You step around another depression, water-filled and black as ink. Something bubbles in it. You decide not to investigate. Hard pass. You move on, boots slipping in mud. A cold wind pushes at your back, like it wants you gone. You don't argue. You hurry a little. Ahead, the path rises again, leaving the worst pits behind. You pause, looking back one last time. The fog rolls over the field, smoothing it out like a shroud, hiding everything. You exhale. Rest easy. You turn away. The city looms ahead again. Silent. Watching. You walk on. The path curves past broken walls and lean-tos. You see collapsed structures, half covered in moss. One building still stands, mostly. A merchant's house, if you believe the local legend. You approach slowly. It's tall for its time, 3 stories if you count the sagging attic. Windows are hollow, shutters broken off. The door hangs from one hinge. You give it a nudge. It scrapes the ground like a drawn sword. Inside is dim. Your light reveals warped floorboards, the walls covered in peeling lime wash. You smell mold. And something else. Old spices. You take a deeper breath. Cinnamon, pepper. You grin. Fancy taste for the end of the world. You step in, careful where you put your feet. An old counter runs along one wall, shelves behind it empty except for a few broken jars. You pick one up. The label is faded but legible. Gawangal. You laugh. Some medieval foodie's dream ruined. You set it down carefully. Your light sweeps over ledgers scattered on the floor. Pages fused with damp, words illegible, except for one. Debt unpaid. You snort. Typical. You wander deeper. You find a chest in the corner. The lid is missing. Inside, rags, scraps of parchment, a small carved idol. This one's intact. A woman with a basket on her head. Household goddess? Pagan remnant? Historians still debate the syncretism of medieval faith in these trade towns. Official records show heavy church influence, but digs turn up folk charms everywhere. You pocket the idol, souvenir. You move carefully up the stairs. They creak so loudly you wince. You freeze, listening. Nothing moves. You continue. The second floor is worse. Floorboards bow and snap underfoot. A collapsed bed frame lies against the wall. You see scraps of cloth, dark with age. Someone's room. You wonder who? A merchant's child? A clerk? Did they flee? Or lie sick here until they didn't get back up? You shake your head. You move on. At the back, you find an office. Desk collapsed, ink bottle shattered, the stain spreading like blood across warped boards. A ledger nailed shut. You pry it open carefully. The pages peel like skin. You see only fragments. Shipment lost. Guards bribed. Never forgive me. You set it down gently. You don't need to know more. You glance around one last time. The walls seem to lean in. You feel watched, judged. You smirk. Yeah, I get it. You head back down. The main room is darker now. Fog creeps through broken windows. You step outside, close the door as best you can. It swings back open. Of course, you nod to it. Fair enough. You walk away, boots heavy with mud. The plague pits vanish behind you, hidden by fog and the curve of the earth. The merchant's house fades into shadow. Ahead, the street bends toward a bridge. You see its outline, half collapsed, vanishing into mist. You smile grimly, because of course the only way forward is across. And you're going to cross it, because that's what you're here to do. You take a deep breath and keep walking. You squint through the fog at the bridge ahead, its arch sagging, stones missing like rotten teeth. It stretches over a dried riverbed choked with weeds and broken carts. They lie half-buried like old bones, mute witnesses to something no one bothered to record. You stand at the near edge, foot on the first cracked slab. It wobbles under your weight. You hesitate, glancing down. The drop isn't lethal, just humiliating. Mud, rocks, a chance at sprained ankles and tetanus. You grin. 5-star medieval engineering. The wind sighs through the collapsed railings. Rusted iron curls outward like dying ferns. You step forward. The stone creaks. Your lamp throws your shadow onto the fog itself. A giant looming blur with too many arms. You laugh under your breath. Okay, Cthulhu cosplay, calm down. You keep moving. Halfway across, the fog parts just enough to show the riverbed below. It's cracked and dry now, but the mud shows ancient channels. Once, this river fed trade. Powered mills, filled cisterns. Historians argue whether it dried naturally or was diverted deliberately when the city fell out of favor. Some suspect sabotage in a trade war. Others blame simple climate change. There's no proof either way, just angry letters in merchant archives screaming about lost tolls. You lean over what's left of the railing. Down there, you see wheel ruts deep in the old mud. Carts must have tried to cross after the bridge cracked. Desperation leaves tracks like that. Your breath hisses between your teeth. You step away from the edge. The wind picks up, making the bridge groan. You keep going, placing your boots carefully. A section ahead is missing entirely. Someone tried to patch it with planks centuries ago. They're black with rot, spongy to the touch. You test them with one foot. They sag alarmingly. You retreat a step, not dying for the views. You skirt along the edge, pressing against crumbling stone. Your hand scrapes on ancient mortar, and you wince as a splinter lodges under your nail. You suck in a breath. Authentic experience. Love it. You flick it away. Your light catches something scratched into the stone. Letters, barely legible. Damn this bridge. You bark a laugh. Same. You move on, boots thudding in the hush. At the apex of the bridge, the wind is stronger. The fog rips past in streamers. For a moment, you see the city spread out behind you, twisted streets, leaning walls, ruins piled on ruins. You swallow, then you face forward, because there's only one way to go, down the far side. You step carefully, testing each slab. One tilts alarmingly. You freeze. Breath held. It settles. You let the breath out in a hiss. You keep moving. Near the end, you spot a pile of offerings. Coins, broken pottery, a child's shoe, left by people trying to appease something. Historians found similar sites in other collapsed towns. They argue about meaning. Were these bribes to spirits, remembrance tokens, or just trash swept aside? No one knows. You crouch, fingering one coin. It's green with age, stuck to the others in a crust of corrosion. You set it back carefully. Hope it worked for you. You stand, knees cracking. You step off the bridge onto firmer ground. You look back. The bridge seems to hunch like an old man, burdened by too many stories it can't forget. You salute it mockingly. Good effort. You turn away. Ahead the street widens. Cobbles give way to dirt rutted by ancient cartwheels. You see walls rising again on either side. This was the old gate district. But no gate remains. Just broken posts, rusted hinges, shards of ironwork, twisted like candy. You step over one carefully. Your light sweeps across toppled barricades. Spikes, logs, half-burned beams. Evidence of a last defense. Historians still argue about the city's final days. Invasion? Civil war? Plague-induced chaos? Records are contradictory if they exist at all. Some letters hint at a siege. Others read like panicked confessions. No clear story survived. You walk through the ruined defenses, imagining shouting, clashing weapons, fires lighting up the fog. Your boots crunch on charcoal. You pause. Something glitters. You crouch. A broken blade. The hilt is wrapped in what's left of leather. You pick it up. It's rusted through, worthless as a weapon, but you hold it anyway, weighty, real. You imagine its last owner swinging desperately at shadows. You place it gently back. Rest. You stand. Your light catches graffiti scrawled on a fallen beam. Trust no one. You snort. Helpful advice. Bit late. You walk on. The ground rises slightly. Ahead, the old city wall looms, cracked, crumbling, but still there. Sections have collapsed entirely. Others lean at impossible angles. Vines spill over it like green blood. You approach slowly. At the base, you see collapsed ladders, broken barrels, what might have been a makeshift watch post. You rest a hand on the stone. It's cool, solid despite everything. You step back, looking up. Moonlight catches the jagged silhouette. Your light reveals a gate arch still standing, iron portcullis twisted halfway down like a frozen scream. You duck under it. Inside, the passage is choked with rubble. You scramble over it, slipping once, cursing. You catch yourself with a dusty hand. You grin. Graceful. You drop down on the other side. It opens onto a narrow yard between walls. Old guard towers loom, one collapsed entirely, the other listing to one side like it's drunk. You see steps leading up to the rampart walk. You hesitate. Of course you're going up. You sigh. Fitness goals. You climb slowly. Each step wobbles or cracks. Your light dances wildly, casting long shadows of yourself on the stone. You reach the top. The parapet is knee-high in places, missing entirely in others. You crouch carefully. You look out. Fog swallows everything, but you see hints of shapes, houses, alleys, that damned bridge. You turn, looking over the outer fields, choked with weeds, dark shapes that might be ruins or mass graves. You don't want to know. Historians debate what those fields held. Farmland? Refugee camps? Execution grounds? No agreement, just silence. You stay there a while, breathing, listening. Wind whistles through broken crenellations. Your lamp flickers. You slap it. It steadies. Thanks, technology. You stand slowly, joints cracking. You take one last look. The city behind you. The empty land ahead. You turn back toward the ruins. Because you're not done yet. The walls might be broken, but you're going deeper. Where the real secrets wait. Because you didn't come this far to turn back now. Not when the city is still whispering. Still breathing. Still waiting. You climb down from the crumbling wall with deliberate care. Boots finding purchase on slick stone and loose rubble. The air thickens around you again, swallowing sound until even your own breathing feels muffled. Ahead, the road leads straight to the bridge you saw from the parapet, a half-collapsed span of ancient masonry, cracked and listing over a narrow, dark chasm. You pause at its edge, squinting through the fog. The gap is deeper than you expected. The old river must have carved it out over centuries before drying up or diverting elsewhere, leaving only weeds and black mud at the bottom. The bridge itself is a mess. A big central section has fallen away entirely, leaving a jagged gap with nothing but rotten beams someone once laid across in a desperate repair. They lie at skewed angles, slippery with moss. You click your tongue. Perfectly safe, obviously. You tap one of the beams with your boot. It flexes in a way that's frankly insulting. You consider your options. Swim through the mud below? Break both legs on the climb down? You smirk. Nope, bridge it is. You step onto the first beam. It dips. You freeze, arms out like a tightrope walker, your lamp swinging wildly and throwing monstrous shadows against the fog. You take a deep breath, then another step. The beam wobbles but holds. You move slowly, deliberately, balancing carefully on each sodden plank, checking with your foot before committing. Halfway across you pause, glancing down. The chasm seems to grin at you. Black mud glistens. A few old wagon wheels lie embedded in it, spokes jutting like ribs. You swallow. Historians still argue whether this bridge was cursed from the start. Records say it collapsed repeatedly, even in the city's prime. Bad design? Shoddy materials? Divine punishment? Local priests used to conduct yearly blessings to keep it standing. Clearly those didn't take. You shuffle forward. Your breath hisses between your teeth as the next beam bends sharply under you. It doesn't break. Barely. You mutter a heartfelt thank you to every relevant deity. Finally, your foot hits solid stone again. You let out a laugh that's half relief, half hysteria. Easy. Barely an inconvenience. You turn, looking back. The beams creak in the breeze. You give them a sarcastic salute. Thanks for the trauma. You turn away, pushing deeper into the city. The street beyond the bridge is wide but ruined. Massive flagstones lie cracked and jumbled. Buildings lean in like drunks helping each other home. The fog curls around everything, clinging low to the ground like smoke. You see half-buried cart axles, broken barrels, a child's wooden horse with one wheel missing. You pick it up. The paint is faded, but you can make out red lines, flames, or just someone's idea of decoration. You set it back gently. Your lamp swings, illuminating crumbled facades. One building has partially collapsed outward, spilling bricks and timber into the street. You have to climb over it, boots slipping on old mortar. You grunt with effort. A cloud of dust rises, making you cough. You wave it away, muttering, "Health hazard. I should sue." Your lamp picks out something shiny in the rubble. You dig carefully. A silver brooch, tarnished black. A flower design, intricate and delicate. You turn it over in your fingers. The pin is snapped. You imagine someone clutching it in the chaos, then dropping it as they ran. You tuck it into your pocket. Souvenir. You move on. Ahead, the road rises toward the remains of the city walls, here less solid than before. The masonry is cracked and spalled. Whole sections have fallen away, leaving gaps like missing teeth. Beyond them, the fog spills in from the fields. You step carefully over another pile of debris. Here, the walls were clearly breached deliberately. Scorch marks stain the stones. Old iron spikes lie twisted on the ground. Historians argue over the city's final assault. Some say it fell from within, traitors opening the gates. Others insist a foreign army battered its way through in a siege so vicious they destroyed their own prize. No one agrees. No one knows. You run your fingers along the blackened wall. The soot smears your gloves. You wipe them on your pants. Thanks for that. You turn away. You see an old fountain in the square ahead. It's dry, cracked. The sculpture at its center is half fallen. A robed figure, face gone, arm outstretched like it's trying to hold back the ruin. The basin is littered with leaves, coins green with corrosion, and a scattering of bones that might be animal. You step closer. You crouch, picking up one coin. The face is worn smooth. You wonder what monarch it used to show. You toss it back with a soft clink. You trail your fingers along the fountain's lip. Cracked inscriptions in Latin, worn almost to nothing. You squint. Damen, miserere. Lord, have mercy. Your breath fogs in the cold air. You straighten, spine cracking. Your lamp catches other details. Graffiti scratched in the basin, rude words, desperate prayers, drawings of crude faces screaming. You blow out a breath. Charming. You step back, looking around. The buildings lean in on all sides, claustrophobic. Windows gape like empty eyes. Shutters hang by a single hinge. One door is splintered in, as though kicked in by force. You wonder by whom, and why. Looters? Soldiers? Refugees who didn't survive long enough to pay rent? You keep moving. Your boots crunch on broken glass. A bottle. You pick up a piece. Greenish, old, the shape unfamiliar. Historians love debating medieval glassmaking. Was this local or imported? Did it hold oil, wine, medicine? You shrug. It's trash now. You drop it and move on. You pause at a collapsed archway, carvings barely visible. Coats of arms? Religious symbols? One is a moon with lines radiating like a sun. Another is those crossed keys again. You trace them with one finger. Cold. Rough. Waiting. You whisper. Who were you? No answer. Of course. You step away, lamp bobbing. The street forks ahead. One path leads toward another ruined tower, just a stump now. The other dives between leaning houses, an alley so narrow you'd have to turn sideways. You sigh, because you know where you're going. Into the alley. Because that's where the secrets are. Because that's where the city wants you, and you're too stubborn to say no. You tighten your grip on your lamp, square your shoulders, and step forward. Because you're not done yet. Not even close. The bridge is behind you. The city ahead. Still waiting, still watching, still whispering. You step into the narrowing street, boots slipping slightly on wet cobbles as the alley pinches you between old walls. Above, balconies lean so far they nearly touch, like conspirators whispering secrets you're not meant to hear. Your breath rasps loud in the cold air. The fog thickens here, clinging to every rough surface, dampening sound so completely you can hear your own heart. You push forward, hand dragging along cracked plaster. It peels off in wet ribbons. You snort. Nice renovation job. Ahead, the alley opens onto a small courtyard. Your lamp illuminates it slowly, revealing the base of a tall wall, part of the city's fortifications. The wall looms over you, cracked but standing, massive stones stacked with brutal confidence. Mortar leaks like melted wax in places. Ivy drapes it in dark ropes, clutching every fissure. You step closer, peering up. A walkway runs along the top. Broken crenellations cast long, jagged shadows. Your lamp's beam dances over a rusted ladder bolted into the wall. You test it with one hand. It wobbles ominously. You shrug. OSHA's on vacation anyway. You climb. Each rung screeches in protest. Your breath puffs visibly in the chill. Halfway up, you pause to look down. The courtyard below is nothing but fog and vague shapes. No going back. You keep climbing. At the top, you haul yourself over the parapet. You lie there for a second, panting. Your lamp wobbles in your grip, casting erratic shapes. One looks like a person standing over you until you move it. You chuckle shakily. Very funny. You stand slowly. The walkway beneath your boots is cracked and uneven. Weeds sprout between the stones. In places, the parapet is missing entirely. One good misstep and you're medieval roadkill. You move carefully. Your light sweeps over old arrow slits and murder holes now choked with moss. Historians debate whether this wall ever truly served a defensive purpose. Some claim it was ceremonial, a show of wealth and strength to rival cities. Others point to scarring from siege engines, blackened stones, half-buried ballista bolts. No one agrees. The truth is lost beneath the layers of soot and time. You run your fingers along a crack in the stone. It's wide enough to lose a hand in. You wonder what broke it. A battering ram? Earthquake? Simple neglect? Probably all three. Your lamp picks out graffiti scratched centuries ago. Death to tyrants, it says in crude, uneven letters. You smile. Classic. A few steps later, you see more modern scrawls and newer-looking scratches. Help us. That one makes you pause. You touch it lightly. Faint rust flakes off. You let your fingers drop. Sorry. The wind gusts. The parapet shudders under you. You hunch, bracing against it. Your coat flaps, the fabric slapping your legs. You swear under your breath. Ahead, you see a tower. Not a tall one anymore. Its roof is gone, the top level collapsed, but its base is solid. You head toward it. Your boots crunch on gravel. You avoid holes where the walkway has fallen away entirely. At the tower's base, a door stands half open, its iron hinges shrieked orange with rust. You push it gently. It resists, then swings with a groan like a dying animal. Inside is dark. Your lamp's beam cuts the gloom, revealing old spiral stairs. You step in, your breath fogging immediately in the cold. You begin to climb. Each step is slick with moss. Your boots slide a few times, making your heart lurch. You swear again. The air smells of damp stone and mold. A rat darts across ahead of you. You pause, letting it vanish into the dark. Evening, sir. You continue up. Near the top, the stairs open onto a ruined platform. No roof, just open sky barely visible through the fog. The wind is worse up here, screaming through gaps in the walls. You crouch, steadying yourself. Your lamp beam sweeps the platform. It's littered with old shields, rusted to flakes, broken spears, a single helm lying on its side like a decapitated head. You reach for it, then stop. You don't want to touch it. You leave it there. You move to the edge carefully, peering over the wall. The city sprawls beneath you in broken lines and crooked angles. Fog smothers everything. But you see hints of the market, the guild hall, the bridge you barely crossed, all of it, silent, waiting. You turn slowly. Behind the tower, the wall continues. A narrow walkway leading further along the perimeter. You step onto it. The stones here are worse, cracked. Some have shifted so much there are ankle-deep gaps. You navigate them carefully. Your lamp catches movement. Your heart freezes. But it's just wind whipping an old banner. The cloth snaps like a whip. It's tattered to ribbons, but you see the city's crest faintly. Those crossed keys, that crescent moon. You trace it with your eyes. Historians still can't decide if it was a family sigil, a merchant mark, or something older. Some say it's tied to ancient cults. Others insist it's just branding gone medieval. You smirk. Solid marketing either way. You keep walking. You pass another guard post, little more than a stone cube with arrow slits. Inside you find piles of old straw rotted to black mulch. A rusted brazier. Soot stains high on the walls. You imagine guards huddled here, complaining about pay, gossiping, maybe watching invaders creep through the fog. You whisper, "Anyone home?" Silence answers. You move on. Your lamp flickers. You tap it. It steadies. Not now, battery gods. The wind cuts through you, cold enough to sting. You hug yourself. Your breath fogs out in long, ghostly trails. Ahead, the walkway ends abruptly. A whole section of the wall has collapsed into the outer ditch. The rubble forms a twisted slide down into weeds and mud. You have no choice. You sit carefully, lamp in one hand. You push off. You slide with a roar of pebbles. Your coat snags and tears. You land hard at the bottom, winded but alive. You sit there a moment, laughing breathlessly. 10 out of 10 dismount. You stand slowly. You brush mud from your clothes. You look back at the wall. It looms above you, broken, beaten, but still standing in places, like it refuses to give up. You give it a nod, respect. You turn away. Ahead, you see shapes in the fog. Buildings, an old fountain, maybe a square, and somewhere past that, the heart of the city, waiting. You tighten your grip on the lamp and keep walking, because you're not done yet. Not even close. You push on through the low fog curling around your boots like a living thing. The air is even colder here, dampness soaking into your clothes despite all your layers. You smell wet earth, mildew, something metallic and sharp that might be blood or rust, or both. Ahead, the street opens into a round space, not quite a square, but a break in the tight medieval warren of alleys. You pause. In the center stands a fountain, or what's left of it. Your lamp reveals cracked stone rising from a dry, littered basin. Carved figures once ringed it. Humans, animals, creatures with wings and claws. Most are broken or so worn they're little more than blobs. You circle it slowly, boots crunching on fallen debris. Your light picks out one figure that's half intact, a woman pouring water from a jug. The jug is broken off, her face scoured blank. You reach out and touch her gently. Cold. Rough. It feels like it wants to crumble under your fingers. You let go. Sorry. You lean over the fountain's lip. Coins litter the basin. Green with age, fused into lumps. You pick one up. It breaks apart in your hand like stale bread. You toss it back. Historians still argue what this fountain represented. Some call it sacred, a blessed spring diverted to feed the city. Others claim it was purely civic, built to impress travelers and rivals. One 17th century antiquarian insisted it was built on old pagan ground, but that's based on nothing more than a single line in a letter he claimed was lost in a fire. Convenient. You chuckle. Sure it was, buddy. You move around to the far side. Here, a large crack splits the basin clean through. Weeds grow from it, stubborn green fingers pushing into ruin. Your lamp catches something scratched into the stone at the crack's edge. Latin letters, barely legible. Memors sumus, we remember. You trace it slowly. The groove is deep, angry, desperate. You straighten, lamp shaking in your hand. Your breath puffs out in pale clouds. You exhale slowly, calming yourself. You scan the ground. It's littered with pottery shards, bones that might be animal or human. You're not qualified to tell. One skull is unmistakable. Small, child-sized. You don't touch it. You step carefully around it, boots sinking slightly in damp earth. You pause at the fountain's base. Someone once painted symbols here in red, mostly worn away now. You can see vague shapes, spirals, a crescent moon, and those damned crossed keys again. You shake your head. Seriously, how many committees did you guys have branding meetings in? You laugh softly. It sounds too loud. The wind answers in a low moan through the ruins. You shiver. You sit carefully on the fountain's edge, lamp resting on your knee. You let yourself breathe. Really breathe. Your shoulders drop, your heartbeat slows, you listen. Wind, the occasional drip of water somewhere, your own breath. You imagine this space centuries ago. Water gushing from the jug, children splashing, merchants haggling at the edge, a thief darting through, bumping a shopper and vanishing. Laughter. Life. You close your eyes, the fog presses against your face, clammy and persistent. You open them again, nothing but ruin. You stand slowly. Your knees pop. You wince. Authentic medieval arthritis experience. You pick up your lamp. It flickers once. You smack it gently. It steadies. Don't you dare quit now. You move on. Beyond the fountain, the ground slopes gently. The street splits into narrow lanes, each choked with debris and sagging roofs. You pick the widest path. Your lamp's beam bounces off walls covered in ancient plaster. Painted symbols, some religious, some that make no sense at all. Wheels within wheels, spirals. Human figures with animal heads. Historians argue about these all the time. Heretical cult, folk charms, bored kids, no one agrees. You step carefully over a fallen beam. Your boot sinks in mud. You yank it free with a slurp. Lovely. You press on. Ahead, the walls open slightly, revealing a small plaza. The ground here is laid with flagstones, many missing or cracked. A broken statue lies in the center. You move closer. It was once a knight or a ruler. Armor carved in detail, but the head is missing, cleanly sheared off. You scan the ground. It's not here. You kneel, brushing debris away. Letters carved at the base, barely legible. Protector. That's all you can make out. You snort. Great job, Protector. You stand, wiping dirt on your coat. Your lamp reveals more. A door set into the plaza's far wall, heavy wood, banded with iron. One hinge broken. You push it open. It groans. Inside is a low-ceilinged chamber. You duck in. Your lamp illuminates racks and hooks along the walls. Empty now. Weapon storage? Torture room? No one knows. Historians found records of city guards headquartered here, but also hints of interrogations during civil strife. No one agrees. You shiver. The air is thick, heavy. You move carefully, boots crunching on debris. Old chains lie on the floor. One is bolted to the wall. You run a finger along it. Rust flakes away. Your breath hisses between your teeth. You leave it alone. In the corner is a desk. Collapsed. You poke through the wreckage. Parchment scraps, illegible except for one line. Confess. You swallow. You back out slowly. Outside, the plaza feels almost welcoming by comparison. Almost. You take a long, shaky breath. You move on. Your lamp sweeps the walls, graffiti everywhere, some profane, some pleading. One simply says, "Forgive us." You touch it gently. Your glove smears the old soot. You keep going. The street narrows again. Buildings lean so far they nearly touch overhead. You have to duck. You move carefully. Lamp held low. You hear something scuttle. You freeze. Rat. You hope. You keep going. Finally, the alley opens onto another square. This one is bigger. Columns lie toppled. Statues decapitated. A broad stage stands at one end. cracked, crumbling. You approach slowly. Your boots echo. Your breath fogs. This was the city's heart once, a place for markets, for decrees, for executions. Historians debate which was more common. You step onto the stage. Your lamp reveals grooves in the stone, channels for blood, they whisper, or rain. Or both. You swallow. Your voice shakes. Well, nice place for a TED Talk. You stand there, listening. The city breathes around you, silent, waiting, watching. You close your eyes, you open them again, and you step down. Because you're not done yet. Not even close. You step carefully off the stage, boots clunking on the cracked stone, your breath a slow fog that seems to linger too long. The wind pushes at your back, gentle but cold enough to bite. You sweep your lamp around the empty square, letting the beam drift over fallen columns and shattered statues. The silence is weighty. This was the city's beating heart once. The Grand Forum, the meeting ground where merchants hawked their wares, proclamations were read, justice was served, though justice probably depended on who was paying. Your lamp picks out details in the gloom. A line of columns, their capitals chipped and stained. One has toppled entirely, lying like a fallen giant across the square. You run a hand along its fluted surface, stone cold and slick with dew. Moss grows in the grooves like a parody of hair. Nice hairdo, you mutter. You keep walking, the lamp bobbing with your steps. Bits of pottery crunch underfoot, shards with blue glaze, fragments of a jug with hand-painted flowers. You stoop, picking one up. The edges are sharp. You turn it in your fingers, imagining the artisan who shaped it. Sold it. The customer who carried it home. The moment it broke. A fight? An accident? You drop it gently. It lands in the dirt with a soft thump. You scan the ground. More coins. Some fused into green-black lumps. A belt buckle. A child's wooden doll, split and worm-eaten. Historians argue whether this square was primarily for trade or for civic gatherings. Some old records describe it as the heart of the people, but that phrase is frustratingly vague. Others mention taxes collected here, executions staged for dramatic effect. No one agrees. You can see both. A market in the morning, bustling with life. A scaffold in the afternoon. Applause. Screams. You shudder. Your lamp sweeps across the center. A giant circle of darker stone. A platform. Once painted with heraldry, now just cracked and scuffed. You walk onto it slowly. The air feels colder here. You pause in the center, turning slowly in a circle. Your lamp throws your shadow onto the surrounding walls. It stretches and bends, arms too long. You wave. Your shadow waves back. You grin. Hello, old friend. You let the lamp linger on one wall. There's graffiti, layers of it, names, insults, prayers. One phrase stands out, scratched deep and angry. No lords. You run your fingers over it. You smirk. Revolutionary spirit, huh? But your breath catches, because underneath it, fainter, someone added, forgive us. You step back. Your heart beats too hard. You turn away. You walk slowly around the circle, boots tapping in the hush. The fog coils along the ground. It curls over old drains carved to channel rain and blood, if you believe the darker theories. You follow one drain to its edge. It's choked with debris, leaves, bones. You crouch, picking one up. It's small, animal, human, you can't tell. You set it down carefully. Your lamp catches something metallic, a rusted chain, links twisted. You tug gently. It comes away from the dirt with a wet, sucking sound. You drop it immediately. Wipe your hand on your coat. You stand, rolling your shoulders, trying to shake it off. You move toward the edge of the square. Here the paving gives way to packed dirt, ruts carved by centuries of carts. Your lamp reveals stone benches, some intact, others broken. You sit carefully on one. It's cold, hard. You imagine spectators here, waiting for announcements, gossiping, or watching punishments. Historians still debate the function of this whole space. They find contradictory accounts, some praising its noble gatherings, others calling it a pit of sin and spectacle. You guess both can be true. You lean back, exhaling. Your breath forms a slow cloud. You watch it dissipate. You listen. Nothing. You shift. Lamp beam drifting over more graffiti. A spiral symbol. You've seen it before. You trace it slowly, rough, deep. Someone took their time carving this. What did it mean? Protection? A curse? Or just something to do while waiting for news? You let your fingers fall. You stand again. Your knees pop loudly. You wince. Authentic medieval knee pain. You walk slowly toward a ruined portico on the far side. Its roof is mostly gone, columns toppled. You pick your way through the rubble. Inside is dark. Your lamp illuminates faded frescoes, figures in long robes, faces scratched out. One has a knife in his hand, another holds a scroll. Historians argue whether this was a courthouse, a guildhall annex, or a shrine. No definitive records survive. Just these broken walls. You run your hand along the fresco. The paint flakes off like old scabs. You pull away. Sorry. You move deeper. Your lamp catches benches, cracked, collapsing. One has something scrawled on it in old paint. Repent. The letters are big, desperate. Your breath hitches. You turn away quickly. Your boots scrape on the floor. You leave the portico. Outside, the fog seems even thicker. It clings to you like wet cloth. You shiver, pulling your coat tighter. You glance back at the fountain. It's barely visible now, just a darker shape in the gloom. You sigh. You turn toward the next street. It climbs slowly, twisting between leaning buildings. You start walking, your lamp bobbing with each step, your breath ragged. You pass doorways, some open, dark inside. You don't look too closely. You see signs above lintels, letters faded, symbols worn away. Trade signs, family crests, who knows? You keep going. Your lamp catches a narrow stair to one side. Leading up, you glance at it. Then at the main street, you sigh. Of course you're going up. You turn onto the stairs. Each step is uneven, wet, slippery. You move carefully, one hand on the wall. The fog seems to rise with you, swirling around your feet. You reach the top. A small platform, a better view of the square. You turn, looking back. The fountain, the stage, the portico, silent, waiting, watching. You blow out a shaky breath. You turn away. Ahead, the street continues, darker, narrower, promising more secrets. You grip your lamp tighter, and you keep walking, because you're not done yet. Not even close. You keep your grip tight on the lamp as you press forward, leaving the wide square behind for a narrower, darker path. The ground here is packed earth streaked with old mud, ruts fossilized from the carts of long-dead merchants. You scan the walls on either side. They loom over you, lurching together like conspirators sharing secrets. Shutters hang at odd angles, banging softly when the wind breathes through. Your lamp bounces light across faded paint. Symbols scratched in the plaster, crosses, spirals, strange runes you can't decipher. Some are careful and deliberate, others are a madman's scrawl. Historians still argue whether these markings were religious protections, guild signs, or the last desperate charms of a city that knew it was dying. You lean in to study one spiral in particular. The groove is deep, rough-edged. Someone carved it with real effort, maybe even anger, or fear. You run a finger along it, feeling grit under your glove. You mutter, whatever you were hoping to keep out, seems like it got in anyway. You straighten. Your boots crunch on fallen plaster. The alley twists, narrowing even further. It almost feels like it's closing behind you as you pass. You reach a small courtyard at the junction of 3 lanes. In the middle lies a slab of stone, cracked down the center. A lid, a hatch. You pause. Your lamp beam catches the iron ring set into it. You step closer, kneel. You tug gently. It doesn't budge at first. You plant your feet. You heave. With a shriek of protesting metal, the slab shifts. Cold air breathes out, damp and foul. You gag a little. Charming. You peer inside. Stone steps vanish into blackness. A crypt entrance. A tunnel. Or both. You lean back, weighing your options. Every sane bone in your body is screaming not to go in. You grin. Guess that settles it. You lower yourself carefully, boots finding narrow steps slick with slime. Your lamp throws a thin circle of light. Walls close in around you, pressing. You move slowly. Each step groans. Your breath is loud in the dark. You pause halfway down, listening. Drips of water. A faint rustle. Maybe rats. You swallow. Keep going. At the bottom, the tunnel opens slightly. Low, arched ceiling of old brick, black with mold. You sweep your lamp. Bones, neatly stacked in alcoves. Skulls grinning in silent rows. Some have crude symbols carved into them. Crosses, spirals, letters in old scripts. You mutter, cheerful interior design. You edge along the wall. Your boot scrapes something metal. You look down. A rusted lantern, shattered glass, the handle broken. Someone else came here once. Did they leave? Your heart hammers. You keep going. The tunnel branches, one path choked with collapsed rubble, the other open. You choose the open one. Of course, the air is worse here, wet, coppery. You cover your nose with your sleeve. Your lamp reveals more bones, jumbled this time. No neat stacking. A skull lies cracked open. You don't look too long. You keep going. Your boot hits something soft. You freeze. You lower the lamp. Cloth. Rotting. Wrapped around a shape that's unmistakable. A body. Old. Long dead. But more recent than the bones. You see a hand poking free. Rings green with corrosion still clinging to fingers. You whisper, sorry. You step carefully around it. Your breath is ragged. You keep moving. The tunnel turns. You see a door ahead. Wood swollen with damp. Iron straps rusted but intact. You press your hand to it. Cold. It vibrates faintly with the wind from somewhere else. You push. It resists. You push harder. It groans and gives way. You step through. A chamber. Round. Domed ceiling black with soot. Your lamp illuminates carved niches in the walls. Each holds a sealed jar. Dozens of them. Some cracked, leaking black residue. You step closer. One jar is smashed. Inside, something like ash or ground bone. You swallow. Historians found these in other plague cities. Debate rages. Were they ritual? Practical? Desperate cremations when burial pits overflowed? No consensus. You crouch. Touch one intact jar. It's cool. Heavy. You set it down gently. Your fingers are shaking. You stand. Your lamp sweeps the dome. Symbols painted in black, circles within circles, words in Latin. You can read some. Deliver us. Protect. Forgive. You exhale slowly. Your breath fogs the air. You feel watched, but you're alone. You move around the chamber, careful not to trip. Your lamp flickers. You smack it lightly. It steadies. Don't you dare quit now. You pause at the far wall. A set of stairs leads up, crumbled in places, but passable. You swallow. You climb. Each step groans. Your legs ache. Your knees complain. You keep going. Finally, you see light. Gray, sickly, but real. You emerge through another hatch. You push it open with effort. It crashes back with a hollow clang. You're outside, in another courtyard, enclosed on three sides by leaning buildings. The fog seems brighter here. You drag in a deep breath. You turn. Look back at the hatch. Black hole in the ground. Waiting. You shiver. You step away. Your boots crunch on old gravel. Your lamp reveals broken benches. A well in the center. You approach it slowly. The stone lip is cracked. Weeds sprout from the gaps. You peer in. Blackness. Deep. Water? Or just mud? You imagine falling. You step back. Graffiti rings the well's edge. Spirals. Crossed keys. The words "keep out" scrawled in English letters that look centuries old. You laugh softly. Good advice. Late as always. You rest your hand on the stone. Cold seeps in. You close your eyes. You breathe. You listen. Wind, fog, brushing stone. Your own heartbeat. Nothing else. You open your eyes. You straighten. You step back. You turn away. The courtyard opens onto another street. Narrow, dark, twisting. You sigh. You grip your lamp. You keep walking. Because there's no turning back. Not now. Not ever. Not while the city still has secrets left. And you're the only one left to hear them. You push forward through the courtyard's narrow exit, the walls closing in like jaws. Your lamp's beam sweeps over faded signs nailed above doorways, symbols worn away, letters chipped into nonsense. You catch your breath and peer around. The alley twists tightly. Brickwork here is different. Narrow red bricks set unevenly. A later addition? Historians argue if these districts were rebuilt hastily after fires or expanded in an unplanned sprawl as trade boomed. But no one agrees on the exact timeline. Because so much of it burned, or was looted, or simply rotted into oblivion. Your boots slide on damp cobbles. Moss grows in cracks like green veins. You drag your gloved fingers along a wall, wet, grimy. You mutter, very sanitary. You turn another corner and nearly walk into it, a broken archway looming over the alley. Chunks of carved stone lie in a rough heap. You step carefully over them, lamp bouncing shadows that make the arch look like teeth. You smirk. Welcome to the monster's mouth. Beyond is another open space, narrow but tall, enclosed on three sides by higher walls. Your lamp reveals shattered windows, frames black with old soot. You realize where you are. The old monastery. You swallow. A chill prickles your skin despite all your layers. Monasteries in cities like this were powerhouses. Scriptoria, workshops, storehouses for taxes paid in grain and livestock, but also places of secrecy, isolation, sometimes heresy. Historians still argue over the role of this place. Official records describe a devout brotherhood, but surviving graffiti, intercepted letters, and local folklore suggest other things. You step carefully onto broken flagstones. Your lamp catches remnants of carved symbols on the walls, crosses defaced with crude spirals, Latin phrases scored out replaced with gibberish symbols. You lean in. One phrase remains clear despite the damage. Exaudi nos. Tiras. You trace it gently. Your glove smears soot. You sigh. Who are you talking to? You keep walking. Your light sweeps across broken benches piled against a wall. You see charred marks climbing the plaster. Signs of a fire. The monastery records don't mention it. Surprise, surprise. You climb over the heap. Wood snaps underfoot. You freeze, listening. The building creaks, sighs, but doesn't collapse. You exhale and move on. Ahead is a door, half rotted off its hinges. Iron bands pitted with rust. You nudge it with your foot. It swings with a shriek. Inside is darker than ink. You shine your lamp, an old cloister walk. Pillars line either side, their capitals carved with grotesques. Some saints, others twisted beasts. Your lamp highlights one with too many eyes. You whisper, nice aesthetic. You step slowly between the pillars. Your boots tap in the hush. The floor here is better preserved, tiles in black and red, laid in an intricate pattern. Some tiles are missing entirely, others cracked like spiderwebs. You avoid the worst gaps. Your breath fogs in front of you. You turn your lamp to the walls. Murals. But so faded they're more suggestion than image. Figures in long robes, faces blurred. One mural catches your eye. A figure holding a book. But the book has been scratched out with angry slashes. Historians still debate whether these defacements were acts of heresy or purification. Some claim the monks here fell to forbidden practices. Others insist reformers vandalized their pious art to correct them. You roll your eyes. Teamwork makes the dream work, huh? You move on. The cloister walk wraps around a small courtyard. Overgrown with weeds, a fountain sits at its center. Dry, cracked. Your lamp reveals statues flanking it, headless saints, their robes eaten by centuries. You step onto the grass carefully. Dew soaks through your boots. You crouch by the fountain. Run your fingers over its edge. Cold, pitted, graffiti covers one side. Not even words anymore, just spirals, claw marks. You straighten, your breath quickens. You force yourself to slow it. You turn away. You walk the last section of cloister, high pillars on one side, wall on the other. More murals, all ruined. But you see words scratched low where a child might reach. Please. You swallow. You whisper back. Yeah, me too. You step through an arch into the next section. A wide chamber. Your lamp reveals rows of desks. Scriptorium, where monks copied books painstakingly, preserved knowledge, or changed it. Your light sweeps over the desks. They're broken, scorched, ink bottles shattered to black stains on stone. You step carefully. Pages lie scattered, but they crumble at your touch, illegible, lost. Except one. You squint at faded letters, Latin. Something about sin, repentance. But the last line is in a different hand, rushed, slanted. Save us from ourselves. You close your eyes, you set it down, you stand, you move on. The chamber narrows. A side door lies half off its hinges. You push it open. Beyond is a spiral stair, narrow, enclosed. You hesitate, but you know you're going up. You start climbing. Each step groans. Your lamp throws dizzy spirals of shadow. You grip the center post. Halfway up you pause, listening. Something moves above you. You hold your breath, but it's just the wind. You keep going. At the top you step into another room, this one smaller. Once an office or cell. Your lamp illuminates a desk bolted to the wall. An iron cross nailed above it, crooked. The walls are covered in writing. Charcoal. Blood? You lean closer. Words in Latin. But also symbols, spirals, crossed keys. Some scratched so deep the plaster's gone. Historians still debate these. Coded prayers, confessions, or madness, no one knows. You back away, your boot hits something, you glance down. A small wooden box. You kneel. You lift the lid, empty. But inside the lid is scratched one word. Forgive. You close it gently. You stand. Your breath rattles. You turn slowly. The wind moans through the broken window. Fog drifts in, brushing your face. Cold, wet, real. You tighten your grip on the lamp. You exhale slowly. You whisper, "I'm trying." You step out through the door, back onto the cloister walk. You follow it, boots tapping hollowly. You find the archway again. You step through, back into the main alley. The monastery fades behind you, swallowed by fog, but it feels like it's watching, judging, waiting for you to come back. You shiver, you shake it off. You move forward, because you're not done. Not yet. Not while the city still breathes. Still whispers, still waits. You keep walking, boots crunching on wet gravel as the alley narrows and twists. The walls lean in like drunks sharing a secret they don't want you to overhear. Your lamp throws long, twisting shadows that dance and stretch, turning cracks in the masonry into yawning mouths. The air is thicker here, heavy with soot and something oily that clings to the back of your throat. You pause at the mouth of another courtyard. This one is ringed by low buildings, their roofs caved in, beams sagging like snapped bones. But at the far end you see it. The old forge. You know it even before you shine your lamp fully on it. The tall chimney rises like a broken finger, blackened with smoke stains that rain and time haven't erased. You swallow, stepping closer. Your boots leave prints in the ash-streaked mud. You kick aside lumps of charcoal, brittle and cracking to powder. The forge's entrance is a wide arch, its lintel carved with symbols you can barely see now. Some of them might be guild marks. Others look like protective sigils, or curses. Historians argue about those. Some claim the blacksmiths here were especially superstitious, blaming miscasts on demons or rival sorcerers. Others roll their eyes and point to the profit margins in the records. You run a hand over the lintel. Cold, rough, you grin. Yeah, bet you charged extra for the curses. You step inside. Your lamp's glow reveals a single massive hearth at the far wall. The hood is cracked, blackened, iron bands warped by ancient heat. The fire's long dead, but the air still feels warm. Psychosomatic, you tell yourself. Sure, your boots scrape on slag, black glassy lumps scattered everywhere. You crouch, picking one up, heavy, sharp. You toss it aside. The clink echoes in the dark. You scan the room. Anvils rusted into lumps, tools scattered, tongs with jaws stuck shut by centuries of corrosion. A hammer lies alone on a work table, its handle cracked, head flaking iron dust. You pick it up. It feels wrong, unbalanced, heavy in all the wrong ways. You set it back down. Yeah, you're retired. You step around the main hearth. Your lamp reveals etchings in the soot-stained wall, spirals again, and words. Mostly Latin, but one line in the local dialect, barely legible. It reads, "Leave us alone." You whisper it aloud. The words die immediately in the hush. You turn. Your light catches a side room. You duck through the doorway. Low ceiling. Crumbling plaster. Racks for weapons line the walls. Empty now. A few blades lie on the floor, rusted to brown stains. You pick one up. It crumbles in your grip. You drop it. Wipe your hand on your coat. Quality work. You see a workbench pushed against the wall. Something's carved deep into it. You lean in. The spirals are there, sure, but also something else. A set of initials. Neat, careful, almost artistic. You trace them with a finger. You wonder who they belong to. An apprentice? The master smith? Some kid sneaking in for mischief? You smile. Hope you got out. You step back. Your lamp catches a bucket collapsed into splinters. You nudge it with your boot. It disintegrates. Dust rises, making you cough. Great ventilation in here. You straighten. Your breath sounds too loud. You turn slowly. The forge feels like it's waiting, watching. You clear your throat. Yeah, I'm going. You head back to the main room. Your light sweeps across the floor. More slag. Scattered nails. A horseshoe twisted into an impossible shape. You pick it up. It's blackened. Edges sharp. A failure or a curse? Local lore says this forge turned out cursed iron. Tools that broke when you needed them most. Swords that bent in battle. Nails that split the beam. Some blamed the smith. Others said the ground here was sour. Cursed. You turn the horseshoe in your hand. You mutter, well, you're sure not lucky now. You toss it aside. It lands with a dull clang. Your lamp flickers. You slap it lightly. It steadies. Don't you quit. You sweep the room one last time. Graffiti on the walls. Names. Dates. Insults. One reads, "He lied." Another simply says, "Beware." You smirk. Real welcoming vibe. You step toward the door. You pause, looking back at the hearth. You imagine it roaring, sparks flying, a smith wiping sweat from his brow, cursing the heat, an apprentice pumping the bellows, rolling his eyes, a client arguing about the price, life, noise, now just ashes. You sigh. You step outside. The air hits you like a slap. Cold, wet, real. You breathe deeply, trying to clear the forge's stench from your nose. You glance back once. It's just a ruin, but it feels like it's watching you leave, judging you. You turn away. Ahead, the street curves, buildings lean over it, eaves nearly touching. You walk slowly, boots squelching in mud. Your lamp throws shadows that twitch and jerk with every step. You see old signs hanging by one nail, squeaking in the wind. One has a hammer and tongues painted on it, the color long gone. A blacksmith's mark. You nod to it. Yeah, I saw your work. You keep going, past collapsed doorways, shuttered windows that gape like black eyes. You pause at a crossroads. 4 ways to go, all choked with fog. You spin slowly, lamp held high, nothing, just shapes in the mist. You sigh. You pick one at random. Because there's no map, no guide, no certainty, just you, and the city, and whatever it still wants to tell you. You tighten your grip on the lamp, your breath fogs. You keep walking, because you're not done. Not yet. Not while there's still one more story hidden in the cracks. One more truth waiting in the dark. One more secret whispering in the fog. And you're here to hear all of it, whether you want to or not. You wander away from the crossroads, boots crunching on debris that used to be someone's floor or wall or table. The fog slithers in and out of collapsed doorways, hugging the ground like it's too tired to rise. Your lamp barely pierces the gloom now. It makes you feel like you're under a blanket you can't lift. You pass another broken sign hanging from one rusty nail. It swings lazily in the breeze, squeaking in a rhythm that's almost musical, almost. You stop to read the faded letters. Bibliotheca. The old library. You tilt your head. Well, you mutter, always wanted to visit. You step through the doorway, careful where you put your feet. The threshold is warped, cracked in a long lightning pattern. You tap it with your boot. It holds. You slip inside. Immediately it's colder, damper, like the walls are sweating fear. Your lamp reveals shelves along the walls, or what's left of them. Most have collapsed, spilling their contents across the floor in ragged mounds of black mold and torn parchment. You lift your lamp higher. You see words, illegible. Ink run to tears by centuries of wet and rot. You kneel, brushing away a layer of slime. A title emerges in Latin. Liber Prohibitus, forbidden book. Of course, you snort. You guys really knew how to name things. You pick it up carefully. The spine crumbles in your hands. You set it down like a corpse. You stand, wiping your palms on your coat. Your lamp sweeps the floor. More books, more scrolls, some tied with string so old it's petrified. A few clay tablets smashed to shards. You pick one up, turning it over. It's covered in cuneiform-like symbols that mean nothing to you. A joke, a foreign text, a cipher. Historians found records suggesting this library was a wonder of the region once. Scripts in 6 languages. Scrolls, codices, tablets, all hoarded here by generations of scholars who refused to share. They built their own little empire of knowledge. Or so they thought. You drop the shard. It shatters on the stone. The sound is too loud in the hush. You freeze. Listen. Nothing. You exhale slowly. You keep moving. Past more broken shelves, past piles of debris that might be old chairs or collapsed lecterns. Your lamp catches a mural on one wall, barely visible under centuries of grime. It shows a robed figure, haloed in gold leaf now mostly gone, holding out a book. But the face has been scratched off with deliberate fury. The book too, just ragged gouges. You step closer. Run your fingers over the grooves. They're deep, angry, desperate. Trying to erase it, you whisper, or protect it. You back away. Your lamp bobs. You turn slowly. In the far corner, an alcove gapes open. You head for it. It's small, cramped, a scribe's niche. The desk is still there, stone slab built into the wall. On it lies a pile of parchment, mold blackened, but one sheet is legible. You lean in, Latin, carefully inked, but the last lines trail into a frantic scrawl. You squint. We should not have written it. Forgive us. Your breath hitches. You step back so fast you bump the wall behind you. Dust falls on your head. You cough. You wipe your eyes. You turn away. You leave the alcove, boots crunching on glass and plaster. Your lamp flickers. You slap it gently. It steadies. Don't you dare quit now. You sweep the room one last time. More shelves, more ruin, more words lost forever. You see another doorway at the far end. Smaller, more ornate. You cross the room. Push it open. It doesn't budge at first. You lean your weight in. It groans. Finally swings with a shudder. Beyond is a narrow hall lined with niches. Reading cubicles, each one carved from the stone, walls etched with names, symbols, curses. Some benches remain, split, warped. You run your hand along one, a spiral is carved into the seat. You sigh. Consistent branding. You sit carefully. It creaks, but holds. You set the lamp on the floor. The light casts weird shadows in the niche. You lean back. Your eyes close for just a moment. You breathe. In, out, slow. You imagine the scholars here. Bent over manuscripts, candles guttering, ink-stained fingers, arguing in hushed voices about theology, trade law, astrology, medicine, recording the city's knowledge, recording its secrets, maybe recording its doom. Your eyes snap open, you pick up the lamp, you stand, you keep moving. The hall ends in another door. Lighter wood. Carved with faded symbols. You recognize the crossed keys, of course. You touch them. They're rough under your glove. You push. It swings open easily. Beyond is a stairwell spiraling up, narrow, steep. You hesitate, you sigh, you start climbing. Each step creaks. Some shift under your weight. You keep your hand on the center post. Your lamp casts dizzy shadows that spin and bend. Halfway up, you pause to catch your breath. You lean against the wall. It's wet, cold. You grimace. You keep going. At the top, you push through another door. You stumble into a small room. Your lamp reveals a domed ceiling. Books lie in piles here too, but these are better preserved. Bound in leather, metal clasps green with corrosion. You pick one up, it creaks but holds. You open it slowly. Latin script, readable. A list of debts. Names, amounts, no grand spells or forbidden truths, just accounting. You snort. The real dark art. You set it down. Pick up another. Recipes. You grin. Ancient Pinterest. You drop it. Dust flies. You cough. You move to the next pile. These are worse. Pages stuck together, mold crawling over them like black lace. You set them down fast. You scan the walls. More symbols, more graffiti. Help us. Forgive. Burn it. You swallow. You step back. You look at the piles. Knowledge, secrets, half lost, half dangerous, all waiting. Your breath rattles in the cold. You turn. You leave the room. You descend the stairs slowly, boots scraping, light bobbing. You don't look back. Outside, the fog has thickened. It presses close. Your lamp's glow is swallowed within a few feet. You breathe. You square your shoulders. You keep walking. Because there's more city ahead, more to see, more to hear, more to uncover. And you're not stopping. Not yet. Not while it still has something to say. You step out of the library's ruin, breathing in damp fog that somehow feels thicker than the walls you just left behind. The lamp trembles in your hand as you shift your grip, adjusting to the chill that seeps in with every passing minute. You look back once at the doorway, a black mouth swallowing everything you just saw, and shake your head. Nothing in there for me anymore, you murmur. Ahead, the street slopes gently downward, lined with half-collapsed buildings. The fog slides over their thresholds like it owns them, filling rooms where families once slept, argued, dreamed. Your boots crunch on scattered tiles and bones. Probably animal, you tell yourself. You pass a broken cart so overgrown with weeds it looks like part of the ground. You nudge it with your foot. It shudders but doesn't fall apart. Built to last, you say, voice dry. You keep moving. Ahead, an ornate arch looms out of the fog, cracked but stubbornly upright. Carvings still visible, twisted vines, figures in robes, symbols you've seen before. The crossed keys, the crescent moon. You raise your lamp. They glow with reflected light, glistening with condensation like they're sweating from the effort of staying visible. You trace them with your eyes. Historians can't agree on these symbols. Family crest, religious sect, ancient cult that predated the city and infected its bones? No consensus, because the records burned, or were buried, or rewritten. You step through the archway. The air chills instantly. It's a palace courtyard. What's left of it? The ground is tiled in patterns so broken they're like puzzles missing half their pieces. You step carefully. avoiding the worst gaps. Your lamp's glow bounces off walls that still stand but lean together dangerously. One wing has fully collapsed, the rubble forming a mound of broken stone and snapped beams. Ivy crawls over it all, dark green in the lamp's light, clinging like it wants to hold the ruin together. You cross the courtyard, boots tapping on cold tile. The fog thickens as you approach the grand staircase, or what's left of it. Half the steps are gone, crumbled into heaps at the base. You test one with your foot, it holds. You take another, and another. Each step creaks. You mutter, "Don't you dare give up now." Your breath fogs in front of you. You reach the top. A hall opens before you, long, tall. But the roof is caved in at several points, letting fog pool like water on the floor. Your lamp reveals ornate plasterwork, most of it cracked and peeling away. Murals once covered the walls, but now they're ghosts. Blurred figures, colors run like tears. You squint at one. A coronation scene? A wedding? A battle? Hard to tell. Historians still debate these images. One claims they show the rise of a powerful merchant dynasty. Another says it's pure propaganda, inventing a glorious past to justify higher taxes. No one can agree, because the family line ended here, abruptly. You step slowly, avoiding holes in the floor. Your lamp's beam finds furniture toppled and smashed, a chair with one leg, a table collapsed into splinters, a candelabra bent like melted wax. You pick it up. It's surprisingly heavy. You imagine it gleaming with candles, light flickering over rich fabrics and polished silver. Now it's a club, or a relic, or both. You set it down. Your lamp flickers. You slap it lightly. It steadies. Not now. You keep moving. You pause at a massive fireplace, cold and dead. The mantel is cracked in half, one end resting on the floor, but carvings remain, spirals, keys, the moon, of course. You run your glove over them. Dust smears, soot clings. Your fingers tremble. You whisper, "Who were you really?" No answer, just the wind through broken windows. You turn away. Your lamp catches a corridor branching off, narrow, low-ceilinged. You duck through. Here the walls are closer, claustrophobic. Paint peeled off in wet strips. You touch one gently. It tears away like skin. You gag and wipe your hand on your coat. You move on. The corridor ends in a small chamber, collapsed roof, floor covered in rubble and broken beams. But in one corner stands a chest, iron-banded, warped, rusty. You crouch. You tug at the lid. It squeals in protest, opens a crack. Inside, scraps of cloth, rotted beyond saving. You poke carefully. Metal glints, coins. Corroded, fused into lumps, worthless now. But once, someone's fortune, or bribe, or payment for something that shouldn't have been bought. You let the lid fall shut with a dull clang. Dust rises, making you cough. You stand, waving it away. You turn slowly. Your lamp catches more graffiti, this time letters scratched and deep. No mercy. You swallow. Your mouth is dry. You whisper, "Guess you meant it." You back out carefully, boots crunching on debris. You return to the main hall. Your breath fogs in the cold. The air is dead here, but listening. You feel it. You walk to the far end. A dais rises a few inches off the floor, cracked, chipped, but unmistakable. A throne room. You step onto the dais. Your lamp reveals a chair. Barely. It's collapsed, rotted, the once fine wood eaten by insects and time. But carvings remain. Faint spirals. Keys. The crescent moon. You crouch. Run your glove over them. The symbols are shallower here, like someone started to erase them, or finish them, or hide them. No one knows, because the dynasty died. Historians can't agree how. Plague? Rebellion? Foreign invasion? Some say they vanished overnight. Their line ended in one brutal purge. Others insist the family walked away, leaving the city to burn. You straighten. Your lamp trembles. Your breath is too loud. You listen. Just wind. You whisper, "Is that what you want me to see?" No answer. You step off the dais. Your boots echo too loudly. You turn back once. The throne collapses a little further. You flinch, then laugh. "Yeah, same to you." You leave the hall, down the broken steps, back into the courtyard. Fog has pooled here like dirty water. It curls around your ankles, clings to your coat. You shiver. You don't look back. You head for the archway. You pause under it. You touch the keys and moon one last time. Cold, rough, silent. You let your hand fall. You step out into the street. You keep walking, because you're not done yet. Not while the city has one last secret left to whisper. and you're the only one stubborn enough to listen. You walk on from the palace ruins, shoulders hunched against the damp that seeps into your clothes. The fog curls thicker here, swallowing the street ahead until it's just suggestion, a smear of gray with no promise of an end. Your lamp sputters once. You slap it gently. Don't even think about it. It steadies, throwing light across cobbles littered with debris. Bits of roof tile, shattered plaster, a twisted spoon, a child's wooden hoop with one broken spoke. You step over them careful. The city feels emptier here, if that's possible. You hear nothing but your own breath. Your boots scuff the wet ground, the sound sharp and lonely. Ahead you see the walls begin to spread apart, the buildings losing density. You're leaving the heart of it now, heading for the outer fields. But the city doesn't let you go without a last trick. You come to another open space, smaller than the big squares but with a stone plinth in the center. Your lamp illuminates it, a monument once, but defaced. The figure on top has been smashed to shards lying like teeth at its base. Graffiti covers every side. Traitor, save us, liar, forgive. Your breath catches on that last one. You trace it with a gloved finger. It feels fresh somehow. You turn away. You keep walking. The street slopes down, leaving the clustered buildings behind. Grass grows between the cobbles, more of it with every step. Soon it's nearly swallowing the road. Your boots leave wet streaks where you push it aside. You pause to catch your breath, listening. Wind sighs through the grass, nothing else. No birds, no animals, no life that you can see. You shiver. You press on. The walls are low now, crumbled to waist height in places. You can see over them. Fields stretch beyond, gray in the fog. Once, these were cultivated. Grain, beans, livestock, feeding a city that devoured food as fast as it arrived. You imagine farmers in the dawn, grumbling about taxes, arguing over irrigation ditches, calling to neighbors. You see none of that now, just emptiness and mist. Historians still argue whether these fields were abandoned because of plague, famine, war, or all three. Letters mention crops failing, taxes rising, rebellion brewing, no single cause, just a city stretched too thin, snapping under its own weight. You leave the broken walls behind. Your boots sink into softer ground, mud, grass, roots. Your lamp wavers over lumps in the earth. Old mounds, unmarked graves, trash pits? No one knows. No one tried to preserve them, or remember. You skirt them carefully. You see a fence line, collapsed but still recognizable. You run a hand along a post. Wood crumbles under your glove. Rot. Time. You press on. Fog thickens again, swallowing the city behind you until it's just a memory. You pause. Turn slowly. Your lamp glows on the mist. Nothing. But you know what's there. The gate. The market, the guild hall, the twisting alleys, the watchtower, the cathedral, the plague pits, the merchant's house, the bridge, the walls, the fountain, the squares, the crypt, the monastery, the forge, the library, the palace. You've walked them all. You've listened to what little they had to say. The city didn't tell you everything, but it told you enough. Enough to know it fell because it was human, because it was greedy, proud, scared, because it refused to bend until it broke. You swallow. Your breath hisses in the silence. You turn away from the fog. Ahead, the fields blur into nothing, but you keep walking because you can't stay. No one can, not forever. The city knows that. It's been watching you, judging you, whispering to you, and now it's letting you go. Because you listened. Because you tried to understand. Your boots leave prints in wet grass. Soon even those will fade, like the city itself, swallowed by time. By silence, by the fog. You don't look back again. You just keep going, because that's the only thing left to do. You slow your steps now, letting the weight of the city fall from your shoulders like an old damp cloak. You breathe in deeply, softer this time, letting the cold air fill your lungs, then release it in a long, gentle sigh. Your boots drag slightly with each step, the fog clinging to you but somehow feeling less hostile, more like an old blanket you're finally ready to set aside. Ahead, the fields blur into a uniform gray that stretches forever. Nothing to trip over. Nothing to fear. The last ruins behind you crumble in memory, no longer pressing at your back with their silent accusations or desperate pleas. They're just stories now, half-remembered dreams you're free to forget or tell however you like. The wind fades to a whisper. Your lamp, so stubborn all this time, flickers one last time and steadies, its glow dimming to a warm ember in your palm. You lower it, no longer needing its light to see the way forward. Your breath slows, your heart matches its rhythm, steady, calm. You can almost hear the city itself sigh in relief, content to rest, knowing someone finally listened. Someone finally cared enough to walk every street, pry up every secret, and leave no promise unanswered. The fog grows softer around you, less like a trap and more like a pillow, ready to catch you. Your eyes drift half-closed. There is no sound now but your own quiet exhale. No memory but the feel of cool stone, the smell of damp earth, the hush of lost voices fading away. You let it all go, and let yourself drift, peacefully, finally, softly into sleep.